Chapter 11, Conflict, Power, and Organizational Politics. LOs. The nature and types of conflict, conflict outcomes and resolution strategies, different personality types, assertive behavior and trust building, interpersonal facilitation, stroking, types of power, organizational politics, and influence. Conflict. Interpersonal process that arises from disagreements over the goals to attain, methods to be used to accomplish those goals, tone of voice use, task interdependence. So conflict can arise in all different types of forms right there. You see when people are talking about what type of job they're doing, how detailed is it, um, what type of tone do you use? And I'll give you examples, just that one right there. If someone says, hey, Mike, can you help me with something? Mike, can you help me with something? See, that's different. And Mike's going to respond to that different. So, and that's going to create a potential conflict right there. But you have different disagreements about all types of things when it comes to the work environment. And so you also have ambiguity of roles in politics and rules, meaning they're not clear. People don't understand what they are. Some people think it's one way, some people think it's another way, and some people think it's a third way. And that's ambiguity. Personality differences, ineffective communications, and personal stress. Personality difference is something that plays in a lot. Me personally, I tell folks, managers and leaders don't manage people; they manage personalities, and some personalities don't work well together. And I'll be honest with you, I don't care what you do with some personalities; they literally don't work together, and you have to figure out what it is you're going to need to do about them. You have people who have differences, cultures, attitudes, beliefs, experiences. All these come into play, and they deal with potential conflict. And I've had to deal with many of those as a leader in the United States Army, and to resolve conflict. Uh, Levels of conflict emerges from within an individual as a result of competing roles taken. So that's intrapersonal. So this is person fighting from within. This is all internal, right here. Uh, about I'm not sure about what to do. I'm not sure about what to do. So I have a conflict and it's not involving anybody else, but it's just me. Interpersonal when one's self concept is threatened. This is when you're dealing with another person. Intergroup conflict arises as a result of different viewpoints and stuff and things that happens within the group. It may start as individual, but may escalate to a group. Sources of conflict, you have organizational change, different sets of values, threats to status, contrasting perceptions, lack of trust, uh, incivility, difficult tasks, personal clashes. When I look at these, I think I've seen all of these before, just in my personal careers. But one of the two that I must say stands out to me the most in my experiences, my personal experiences, has been personality clashes and incivility. Those and that's strictly people related. And then you have to deal with those accordingly. But all of those, and of course, those lead to a lack of trust and all other things too. Five major personality traits. So you see one extreme trait, opposite extreme. So when you look at this, you see the one extreme, caring, sensitive, empathetic. And I won't read through all these. I'll let you pause and read through these. Myers-Briggs type indicator. Difference, differentiates people into 16 categories based on their preference for it. Thinking versus feeling, judging versus perceiving, extroversion versus introversion, sensing versus intuition. Advantages and disadvantages of conflict. Advantages: partners learn each other's preferences and stimulate sticks to find improve approaches. Energizes creativity, promotes experimentation, brings hidden problems to surface. Individuals are more committed to the outcome after the conflict resolution. Disadvantage: cooperation, teamwork deteriorate. Uh, in individual experiences, defeat, decline, personal anxiety, increased stress, reduced motivations. And I can tell you, whenever there's some legitimate conflict, what you'll see a lot of times is you will see red flags. So the conflict can actually, it's red flags you show and you can see it, but I can tell you as a good leader, what one should do is try to squash that as soon as possible. Conflict outcomes, win-win outcome of conflict. Both parties perceive they are in better position than they were before the conflict began. Participant intentions, product of the participants' intentions and their strategies. So when you see this, and I will tell you this, usually both parties they don't resolve a conflict without some intervention of some type. Somebody's got to get in there and mediate, usually like a supervisor, or manager, or somebody, and help both parties to move forward. And I know that's what I had to do on numerous occasions. Resolution strategies. So when you look at resolution strategy, we're talking about avoiding results in a lose-lose situation. So some people who I would refer to as they're conflict averse, they want to address this. Managers, supervisors, they want to address this, and they'll hope it goes away. Soothing results in a lose-win outcome. That means somebody is going to get, you're going to soothe somebody. Smoothing, somebody's going to go home feeling pretty good, and the other one's going to go feeling like you stole a kid. Forcing results in a win-lose situation also. Again, when you force, it's going to be somebody's going to, it's almost like partisan. Somebody's going to get a side and somebody won't. Compromising, no clear-cut outcome. I'm not a fan of that either. So to me, that's a lose-lose situation. I don't understand why some people do that, but again, some people are risk-averse and conflict-averse. Confronting, facing conflict directly and working towards a mutual satisfactory resolution results in a win-win outcome. And this is what I've always insisted and told people to do. You must confront conflict head on. You must face it head on, deal with it. And there's a couple of things that happen. There's a chance you can come out win-win. There's a chance that by dealing with it early and quick, it doesn't get worse. Meaning you got two people that may be involved in it now, but if you wait a week, it may be two, they may split the group. You got 10 people, 5 on this side and 5 on that side. Now you really got a problem because you let it fester. Guidelines for conflict resolution through confrontation. So agree on the common goal to solve the problem. What is that? Commit yourself to fluid, not fixed positions. People have to be flexible, have to give. It's not like you're going to walk into a negotiation and get everything you want. Clarify the strengths and the weaknesses of both party positions. Recognize the other person. Now, when I see this, I'm thinking in terms of being a manager and leading this. Recognize the other person's and your own possible need for saving. Be candid up front. Don't hold back any key information. Avoid arguing using yes but responses, but maintain control of emotion. Strive to understand the other person's point of view. Ask questions to elicit need information. Probe for different meanings. Make sure both parties have a vested interest in making the outcomes succeed. Give the other party substantial credit when the conflict is over. This is actually how you resolve some conflict between two people. Other ways to resolve conflict is application of relevant rule of policy. Separate the parties by reassigning workspaces, removing one person from the committee, placing workers on different shifts. Insert neutral person who can facilitate resolution. Challenge parties to work towards unifying goal. So these things can be done too sometimes when, and I've seen people do that when they've actually had to separate people because they could not get them. It was not going to work out. I've seen it before. And people do this periodically. If you have some flexibility to move some folks and balance and things, do that. But most importantly, you have to make sure that you have two people who want to move past that, because sometimes that will not be the case. You may have one of them who really wants to hold a grudge, and you're really going to have to work on that person. Relationship and story approaches. Signaling the offense. So what is the offense? Acknowledgement of their, okay, what did you do wrong? Okay, what happened? Acknowledge that it was wrong. Acceptance that, you know what, I've got to do better. And appreciation for the effort to do better. So negotiating tactics, resolving a conflict to a win-win outcome. Select a neutral site, arrange comfortable seating, and prohibit observers. Set deadlines to force a resolution. Advice for individual negotiators. Set minimum optimal goals in advance. So when you're looking at this to try to negotiate tactics, you're looking at a neutral territory. You don't want people observing. You only want people there who's actually involved in the process. Uh, you got to set some guidelines where you go in there, some goals or some objectives, and and everybody's got to agree to that. So here's what you're going to focus on. And then you're going to gather data and you're going to listen carefully. You're not going to go off things you think. You're going to go by the data and keep your emotions out of it. And you can't respond to people. You have to respond to the issues. Meaning, if somebody's in the negotiation and she really gets under my skin, I stop thinking about negotiation. I start thinking about trying to get her. You can't do that. You got to keep your mind. You got to stay focused. Revolving a conflict to a win-win outcome. Select a neutral site and range for comfortable seating. But when you set those deadlines, set some objectives that'll help guide you. Advice for individual negotiation. So we actually just talked about that. Trust builders, building trust. So we have things that will build trust, and we also see that we have things that will destroy trust. So if we're looking at things that will build trust, showing respect, being sincere, being honest, demonstrating reliability, dependability. Destroying trust, half truth or lies. If you do that, it is done. Then you have lost credibility. And I can see right now, this would be something, let's say that there was two organizations and somebody did that with one of them. I can see one organization reaching out to the other organization saying, you know what, we will come back to the negotiation table, but we will not negotiate with that guy. He can't be a member of your negotiations because he lied to us. You got to make sure there's no inconsistencies. Don't make promises you can't keep. Don't threaten, and don't withhold information if you know it's something that needs to come out. Assertiveness, process of expressing feelings, asking for legitimate changes, giving and receiving honest feedback. So assertiveness a lot of times is a reflection of people's personality. People who are aggressive type A personalities or extroverts, a lot of times this is something that actually they will do. People who are not, people who are introverts, this will be difficult for them to do these kind of things because they're not naturally wired to be that way. So you have to keep that in mind when you're trying to resolve a conflict. What type of person am I dealing with? So you look at certain people not afraid to ask others to change an offensive behavior, willing to refuse unreasonable requests, direct, honest, expressive, confident, capable of making others feel valued. So most people like somebody, when you're talking about something of this nature, for somebody who can shoot them straight. They may not like what you say, but they respect the fact that you say it and you're being respectful and you're telling the truth. Stages in assertive behavior. So we see, first of all, you look at is you want to describe the behavior. So what was the behavior? Now, as a result of that behavior, what feelings are associated with that? Can we empathize? And I notice I said, can we empathize? Because for some people, that's tough for them. And it's not sympathize, it's empathize. The difference between the two is one, sympathy is when you just feel sorry for somebody. Empathy is when you share in this misfortune or sorrows. Offer problem solving alternatives. Don't keep pointing out the problem. We know what the problem is. Can you offer something that's actually positive and not negative? Indicate consequences. This is thinking about contingencies. Okay, if we do this, what are the consequences of doing this? What can we expect? And allow everybody to give input on that because they have different perspectives. And you want to make sure that you can anticipate any pitfalls before you get to that final phase or agree to things. Interpersonal facilitation. So capacity to focus on others' personal needs, sensitivities, and synchronicities, and work to help conflict under control and collaboration and high among high teams. So it requires awareness of personality traits that would create energy within the team. Employees who are emotionally volatile uh, when to intervene. So this is an interpersonal facility. Know who you're dealing with. Know what their strengths and weaknesses are, what their personality types are like, and know and try to play into their strengths, not their weaknesses. For instance, don't ask the introverted person who's very uncomfortable talking to people to be your lead negotiator. That is absolutely, it makes no sense at all if you're actually trying to get something done. But you want to make sure you're working to, first of all, keep the conflict down and make sure we keep endeavoring for a resolution. So build on the foundation of care, concern, sensitivity, and psychological flexibility, compassion, action-oriented process that involves noticing, praising, feeling, compassionate responding. And this is something that is difficult for some type A personalities because they're not naturally wired to be compassionate. And that can be a problem when you are actually in a situation where compassion would actually be beneficial. And when you're dealing in these negotiations, there may come an opportunity or time when it would benefit you to be compassionate. Well, if you're just a type A personality thinking, I'm here to win and I'm not gonna take any prisoners, I'm gonna kill everybody, I'm gonna do this, that is not a good person to have on a negotiation team to try to resolve a conflict. And you see the word flexibility here, because that person will not be flexible. Managers with well-developed interpersonal facilitation skills build on their emotional intelligence and learn about coworkers' personal lives, make mental notes about employees' likes and dislikes, monitor others' degree of job involvement, mood, and commitment, develop and apply their facilitative skills in a variety of social settings. So this is where managers, when you are facilitating, you learn, you build on skills and stuff. You use those skills to help you manage and lead and resolve conflict. Some of the things that you do is EQ, is emotional intelligence, is learn a little bit about folks, the people you're talking about, who they are, as much as you can about them, because that can help you to understand and possibly relate to them. And learn, if you can learn about their likes and dislikes and all the different types of things you can learn about somebody. You want to do that before you go into negotiation or try to resolve some conflict. And this is where those facilitation skills come in. Stroking. So positive strokes. Good feel when received and continue to contribute to the recipient's sense of well-esteem. So yeah, you want to have some positive strokes. And this can be done by things that you say and maybe little gestures that you do. Negative. Hurt physically or emotionally and make recipients feel less proud. So if that's the case and stuff, you know, this is totally counterproductive to what it is you're trying to do if you're trying to resolve a conflict. Mixed strokes, mix of positive and negative comments. So if you're going to do this, you better be very strategic, because that can backfire on you very quickly if you're not careful. My thing is, negative is always going to be viewed as negative. There are some things that, you know, I can bring out, but I don't have to bring them out in a negative way, in a negative manner to bring it to your attention. Conditional strokes, offered to employees if they perform correctly or avoid problems. Okay, conditional strokes is something that can be done. It's like, okay, it's kind of like you're on probation. If you stay good for a certain amount of time, you will get this. We will do this for you. Unconditional strokes, presented without any condition to behavior. And that's kind of open-ended stroking. I personally would be comfortable just having an open, unconditional stroke type thing, because at the end of the day, you know, I'm still trying to resolve something, but it's just, I need some parameters and I need to provide some. So probable relationships of conflict resolution, strategy, and behavior. So resolution strategy. So when you look and you see, we got 4 strategies over here. We got probable behavior. We see that. So if you see avoidance, that's non-assertive. That's somebody, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm gonna stay out of it. Smoothing, still non-assertive. They're still gonna try to minimize and not have much to do with it. Forcing is aggressive. And so is confronting is aggressive. You have to know if you're doing probable relationships, conflict resolution behavior. You got to know if you see these behaviors. If you see these behaviors, and there's a strategy that's actually behind that. Power, the ability to influence other people and events. Basis of power. Got personal power, ability of leaders to develop followers from strength of their own personalities, known as reverent or charismatic power. So by somebody being a leader and having legitimate power, uh, they have that by virtue of being in that position. But what they also can use is their charisma and their personality to lead and get other people to follow. And legitimate power arises from a culture of society by which power is delegated from a higher established authority to others, known as position or official power. And so this is really tied to your position. Personal power is what you can get people to do because of you, your personality, and the type of person you are. Legitimate is coming from that position that you hold. Expert power arises based on someone's knowledge. I'm asserting my power over this group because I know more than they do. Reward power, capacity to control and administer items valued by another, basis for reinforcing desire. So basically, by somebody doing something or people doing things I need them to do, then I reward them. That's my power. And that reinforces the behavior. Coercive power, it's when you're looking to punish somebody and make somebody do something, and you're using fear as a motivator, and you're coming off like a tyrant. Usually doesn't go over well. Possibility responses to the use of power. So organizational politics. Intentional behaviors that are used to enhance or protect a person's influence, self-interest. Inspire confidence and trust by others. So this is when you look at, when you talk about politics, intentional behaviors that are used to enhance or protect somebody, their person, inspire confidence and trust by others. Key dimensions of political skill: being socially astute, having interpersonal influence, creating useful networks, expressing sincerity. So this is one of the things we hear about, like a politician. They are socially astute. They know when they're around certain people, they know who they're around, they know what to say and what not to say, and they know how to compliment and encourage. They also, they know how to create networks of people to help them get things done, and they're masters or using emotions, expressing sincerity, but using emotions as a way to connect with people. These pros is to help attain promotion, sell a proposal, or gain personal visibility. Cons: self-serving, manipulative, and deceitful. Political behaviors become dysfunctional when threats are made to achieve one's goal, coalitions are formed to block a legitimate objective, untrue information is circulated to destroy the competitor, outright sabotage occurs. So this is why people don't like politics. Because for the truth be known, most of this stuff right here that they said is bad is what you see most of the time in politics. And it can be self-serving. So this is why it would take very unique type people to go into politics to be able to withstand all of these dysfunctional and negative things. Steps to increase influence: treat the other party with a potential ally. Identify your objectives. Learn about the other party. Inventory your resources to identify something of value to offer. So if you're trying to increase your influence to somebody, know them. Know who they are. What are their objectives? What is it like? What do they want? What are their desires? If you can offer them something that they value, then do it. Again, if you're trying to increase your influence, what you're really trying to do is develop an ally. Somebody you say, you know what, I may not agree with everything you say, but I trust what you say. and I trust that you're a man of integrity, even though you and I see some things differently. I know that you're a person of integrity that I can trust. Steps to increase influence: assess your relationship with other people. Decide what to ask for and what to offer. Make the actual exchange, producing a gain for both parties. Accept victory graciously and avoid boasting. So when you look to increase your influence, it's how you react with these people. Do you accept victory gracefully? Are you a poor loser? Are you offering something that, that's mutually beneficial? And are you establishing some type of relationship with these folks that actually says, you know what, I can walk away from this knowing that we had a hard negotiation, but we partied as gentlemen, and we've agreed on this, and what we both are walking away with is something that we think is fair. Tactics used to gain political power. So social exchange. Out there, in the social environment stuff, whereas that can be very beneficial. Somebody's actually tied to a group of people that I want to connect with. I'm actually working with a group of people somebody want to be connected with. Allegiances. And so when you look at getting these allegiances and stuff, you can never have too many of those because that's part of your network. Identification with higher authority. You want to be able to have identification with higher authority, people who are decision makers in positions of authority. Doing favors for others. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Control of information. You want to make sure that you have some information that that you can control, that people will need to come to you for. Selective service. Be selective about what it is you choose to do, how you choose to serve, and what things you seek to provide or work in. Power and status symbols. A lot of times this can be important when people use this, their positions that they gain in organizations and connections and affiliations. Power plays is when you make a power play and you do something that somebody didn't see coming, and you did something that other people couldn't do, or you did it before they could, and now it puts you in a position where you now have some status. Networks, part of your allegiances, establish on networks. And posturing. Posturing is when you're playing a game with someone. You know what? I'm gonna posture with you a little bit back and forth about this topic right here. I'm not really trying to get too heavy, too deep into it stuff. I'm gonna give a little and I'm gonna take a little. It's kind of like literally like doing a mental dance with someone. Normal reciprocity. People in a continuing relationship feel a strong obligation to repay their social debts to each other. So people continue and then continue. So when people are continuing in a relationship, they have a strong sense of wanting to repay others. And this is having that norm of being connected with other people. Self-monitors. People who are more effective at using organizational politics than others. High self-monitors, low self-monitors. So when you think in terms of monitoring your activities and how you go about doing them, you've got to continue to do that self-monitoring and constantly assessing. Impression management, ability to protect and enhance their self-image while intentionally affecting another's assessment of them. So this is how, I'm doing things calculated, strategic to try to give a good impression to certain people who might be watching me, observing me, or who can help me. That concludes this chapter.